Welcome to the Sales Navigator Live Show with Stan and Bryn. Join LinkedIn expert and sales professional Bryn Tillman and me, Stan Robinson Jr., Chief Coaching Officer here at Social Sales Link, as we bring you the best tips and strategies for leveraging Sales Navigator for your sales success. Enjoy the show. Hello, Bryn.
Hello, Stan. So excited for our conversation today.
Yes, and thank you so much. Now, I'm going to read this because I realize a lot of people will be listening to this later. GetMySSIScore.com. I'm so glad you put that up because today's topic's SSI score. And most people have heard of it. We wanted to talk a little bit about the 4 components and how LinkedIn and Sales Navigator arrive at that score.
Yeah.
And just give a little bit of context in terms of how to think about the score, because it is a great tool just for keeping up with your social selling activity. And so I'm excited to be talking about the SSI score today. And Bryn, thank you so much for this link that anyone can use to see what their SSI score is. So we'll repeat it several times.
Yeah, I love that. So, the social selling index is really an industry rating and a network rating. And it can also help you identify in larger corporations how well your team is performing on Sales Navigator. You could probably do it on LinkedIn, but it's not nearly as easy as a report in a corporate Sales Navigator position. So, the interesting thing, and we know we're going to do a deep dive, is there's controversy around whether or not the social selling index has real validity. And I'm going to start with my thoughts. You can share. I think that the SSI score is one very easy way to identify how much activity is being done around 4 components that we'll go into. And the reason I think that this is important is just like any sales activity, having KPIs to measure, to be able to coach to be able to train to, is really important. The key with the SSI score, particularly for larger organizations, is for you guys and gals to identify what the right activity is and the correlating score. So we're going to go through, it's between 1 and 100. I have, and Stan, we talked about this a little bit, played the system when this first launched many years ago. I really wanted to how high can I get and what activities does it take for me to get there? So I hit 99, which is absurd. It's a ridiculous amount of work to get to 99. And for me, it wasn't productive work. Not all of it. A lot of it was. But there were things that I identified, like I had to look at and open up 20 profiles a day in order to continue to find. I think I said the wrong thing earlier. I'm looking at it. Find the right people. If I had to open 20 tabs in order to raise my find the right people score. Wow. And we'll talk about this, which, by the way, is my lowest score on my SSI. And it's my lowest score because I find less of the right people because quality over quantity is how I run.
Yeah.
So if I were mastering find the right people, I recognize that I would be doing activity that wasn't necessarily converting to sales.
To sales. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know that was a very long rant on that, but I really wanted to open it up with the highest score doesn't always win,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So and now I'm going to throw the baton back to you to continue that conversation.
Yeah, but thank you, Bryn, because that's great for context.
Yeah.
Because as sales professionals, a lot of us tend to be just a little bit competitive,
Yeah.
and it can reach the point where, as Bryn mentioned, your time may be better spent on other activities rather than trying to drive your SSI score up another 2 points. You could be spending time doing social media posts on the phone, any number of other things. But as we talked about, there are four categories. I'm going to briefly outline them, then we'll dive in. You've got branding or brand, your brand, finding, well, they just call it find, which is the name implies it's going to be finding the right people, and engage, which
Yeah.
we talk about a lot because that's such a critical piece of social selling, and building relationships because sales is all about relationships. So the brand, as you can imagine, it's pretty straightforward. It's how complete is your LinkedIn profile? And Brent, I know you and Bob not too long ago did a podcast episode on above the fold. What appears in your LinkedIn profile above the fold, which is just another way of saying when someone comes to your LinkedIn profile, what can they see right away without having to scroll?
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. So I know you talked about the banner or taking advantage of the fact that we can have a banner.
Yes.
So LinkedIn, I mean, they do provide some generic capabilities in terms of a banner. Honestly, I haven't looked at those in a while.
They're pretty generic.
Yeah.
However, LinkedIn doesn't know the difference. They know if you have one or you don't have one. So you definitely will get credit for establishing your professional brand, even if it's not a great banner. So that's where I say this is a really great score, but you always have to look at uh the really what's happening, right? Like there is no way LinkedIn could judge if your banner happened to be on brand or not.
Mhm.
So as a leader, you could say, wow, all of my team has a great branded, professional brand, but it only really means they have a complete profile. It doesn't mean it's a great one.
Profile.
So like I just want to keep that in mind. So, as we're measuring this, we have to be careful. If I could just throw one of the interesting things, and I don't know how they know this, but LinkedIn will say complete your profile with the customer in mind. So that's part of describing establishing your professional brand. At least it was the last time we studied this. Right. And so what I love about that is, we teach from resume to resource. LinkedIn themselves are saying if you are in sales and you're using Sales Navigator, that profile should keep the customer in mind. It's not your great negotiating skills and President's Club and all those things. Although I think it's important and you can add that down below. But in order for this to be graded well in the social selling index, according to LinkedIn, you need to create that profile with the customer in mind.
Yes. Yep. And it's logical when you think about it because when the customer comes to their profile, they have one question in their mind, and that is, what can this person do for me?
Right.
How can they help me? And I'm not interested in what a great negotiator they are, because that means that, I may be pulling my hair out when we're trying to come up with pricing.
Right.
So they just want to know what value you bring to them. So we always talk about the banner, making sure that you have a good headshot, things like making sure that it's relatively current. So when someone sees you on LinkedIn and they later meet you on Zoom, what they see matches.
Yes.
Yes, so it's not good to surprise people that way. Make sure that your headline, which we just alluded to, is customer centric, that it
Yes.
speaks to the customer. And so having a complete profile, there are other areas like contact information. Small thing with contact information, we suggest using your business email rather than your Gmail, or for those of us who go back a long time, there's still some AOL addresses out there. Make your business email your primary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep all your emails attached to your LinkedIn profile for reasons we won't get into here, but make your business email your primary.
Well, I do want to get into one of the pieces I think is important to know. There are lots of reasons, but you can have 5, 6, 7 different emails. Your primary email, your business email today, but you want to have at least a second one. That's your Gmail or Yahoo or AOL. So that if for some reason you move on from your current business, your current company, you can still log in.
Exactly.
And that I think that's the most important. And there are others, but we'll leave it at that for now.
Yes, because we've seen that happen to people all the
Yeah.
time.
So I will also throw in, and then we'll move into number 2. And this is where it gets a little gray because establishing your professional brand may also touch on thought leadership and publishing meaningful posts, is how LinkedIn will put it. However, when we go to engage with insights, it kind of repeats that.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure what the overlapping is, but I will share my my professional brand is at 22 out of 25. There are 3 points that I'm not earning, and currently I'm not sure why. I am very confident that my profile is client centric. And I am very confident that I'm sharing insights, thought leadership. I do have a 25 in number 4 that we'll talk about, which is what's most important to me. But as much as you and I know this, Stan, I don't even really know what's going to move that dial right now beyond 22. That is not a normal score. The average person is not going to have a 22. I have a 22 because I am in this all the time. But the fact that I don't know how to get to a 25 anymore when I did a long time ago is interesting. Like, we really don't know exactly what pushes the needle past a certain point.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And that's another reason for sales professionals not to get too hung up on little variations in terms of how many points. Um, this hasn't happened recently, Bryn, but in the past, LinkedIn has changed its algorithm such that everyone's SSI score has taken a hit.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Almost everyone went down between 10 and 20 points.
Yeah.
So I will say, I believe that just having Sales Navigator gives you a little kick.
Yes. Yes. And LinkedIn actually, they allude to that in their documentation. They actually say, there's some things you can do. So it's interesting you mentioned that, because we're about to talk about Find next. And of course, one of the ways that Sales Navigator gives us a great extra kick is the number of additional search filters that Sales Nav brings to the table beyond LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of the algorithm,
Oh,
but
I'm sure it is.
yep, yep. So as a Sales Navigator user, you just have more things that you can do with search filters, and that probably impacts your SSI score. in a good way.
Yeah, this is an important one. And interestingly, um, this is a low score. I looked, I always think it's my low score. It's actually my second low score right now. And it's an 18.8. Now, am I okay with this? Absolutely. An 18 is very high, right? I'm not going to try and even say, oh, poor me, I'm not at 25. However, I would say, like, this is the element where if I were looking at more profiles, this score would go up.
Mm.
Not connecting with more people, just because to LinkedIn's head, I'm finding them, right?
Mhm.
But the way that I work, so I find the right people. I use phenomenal filters. I do a deep dive on filters, which is why I think I am where I am. And I have some saved searches, which now is no longer called a saved search. It's a toggle that says send me new ones. But I've got lots of searches saved, of the right people. But I only leverage this, I shouldn't say only, primarily based on people that my connections are connected to. So I may only look at 8 or 10 in a day based on one person. I'm not cold calling. I'm not mass outreaching. I'm not looking at a ton of these in a day. And I'm also only saving leads that are truly relevant to me. I just cleaned up my saved leads, which may have hurt me. I unsaved almost everyone except from a couple of lists I'm actively working because I just had too many saved leads and it was getting a little cluttered. I did a little fall cleaning, right? So that may have actually hurt my find the right people too. But the bottom line is if you start at 7 or 10 and you start creating better searches and you start looking at more people from those searches, your score will go up. You will be rewarded. There will be a point that you find that you plateau and you have to decide, am I doing all the right behaviors? And if the answer is yes, then it's okay that you plateau at a certain number.
Yeah.
But most people that are starting with Sales Navigator for the first time start really low. In fact, did you know, interestingly, the average, which blows my mind. So uh, we're we are bundled in with sales professionals in LinkedIn. So
Mhm.
industry SSI ranking, there is no. It's we're bundled with professional training and coaching.
Okay.
The average SSI score in our industry is 38.
Really?
Yes. And the average SSI score of people in my network, I believe it may be all of our networks because we have a corporate account,
Count.
is 49. So our network is higher than our industry, which is very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, anyway, so I mean,
Wow.
take a look. So 38 on average. If you guys are at a 38, you're average. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but you can watch that uh change over time. So anyway, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Stan. You go. What you want to move
That's
on to number 3?
yes. Let's go ahead because the time always flies.
I know.
Engaging. Engaging. This is what we talk about is adding value with content. Engaging in the sense of adding relevant comments
Yes.
to other people's posts and tagging them so that they're notified that you're helping to amplify the content that they've posted because that's one of their reasons for posting is to get more visibility. And when you comment, it helps to give them more visibility, which is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is where again it overlaps slightly with establish your professional brand, because they're talking about publishing meaningful posts. Engaging with insights, to your point, Stan, is more about, am I engaging with other people's posts? And am I engaging with commenters on other people's posts? Right? So that is a huge piece of the engage with insights. And it's probably not clear, because you would think engage with insights would be publishing.
Exactly.
But it's definitely a gray area. Right now, and this astonishes me, this is my lowest score, even though I always think find the right people is, and I am a massive engager. I'm engaging on collaborative articles. I engage, I mean, a lot on comments. So I'm not sure. And one of the things I wish LinkedIn would do was give you a little bit more advice on what to do. They used to have little like PowerPoint slides that would go through, and they've taken those away. And but I would love to LinkedIn, if you're listening. I'd love just a little more guidance on what are you looking at, because I'm at 15.6 for engage with insights. And that may be perfect for me. I may not need to do more, but maybe they come back and say, and I don't know. So this is my thought process. I'm not engaging enough inside of Sales Navigator, or I'm not engaging enough with my news feed of the saved people. Like, this is what I want to learn, right? So I am engaging, but maybe I'm engaging with the wrong people, not with people that I've targeted from a sales perspective. But now I've said it out loud, I'm going to go test that. Right?
Yeah.
And so, those are the things that are important, but engaging with insights is a huge way to start conversations about being salesy. Really important.
Yes. Yes. So important. So important. And engaging with good comments, it raises the visibility of the person who's posted as well as you.
Yeah.
And Bryn, as you mentioned at the very start, since it's not exactly clear what drives additional points in each category, engage with insights is always my lowest score, always. And brand has always been my highest, and it never changes.
Well, because you don't update your profile all that much.
Yes, the thing that's confusing, and that's what I thought until I read about, oh, well, part of your brand is what you're posting.
Which you do a great job.
Yes, so
I bet if once a week you change one thing in your profile, you'll start to see it move a little bit. And that's why I say that's not necessarily the right activity. And so maybe where you are is fine. If you're, maybe you don't need to get to 25.
yeah.
However, the next one is my 25, and it's always 25, which makes me so happy because it's build relationships. And that's the core. And I'm going to tell you honestly, I have no idea how I'm at 25. I don't know the algorithm behind build relationships. They will tell you it's strengthen your network by finding and establishing trust with decision makers. I'm going to tell you what I think, and it's not really relationships. I think it's the amount of inbound connection requests I get, not outbound. So when I played with this years ago, that's what I found. The less people, the ratio between inbound connection requests and now, which it wasn't then, followers, to how many connection requests I'm sending out, seem to have a huge impact on the build relationships.
That makes a huge amount of sense. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it definitely does. Because as you said, you're a master of building relationships. but it's a matter of, okay, what is Sales Nav actually looking at?
Right.
Um, but that makes perfect sense, because it means that people, for various reasons, are consistently inviting you to
Right.
connect, as opposed to you're having to go out and invite them. So yeah, that that's a great insight.
Yeah.
I
And again, so all of this was my own little study that I did over about 6-month period a long time ago. So I don't know. We still don't know what's really behind the SSI score. And I have asked many of LinkedIn product managers in our time, and they don't really know. Someone does. Someone is in the ivory tower somewhere going, I own the algorithm for the SSI score. And no one gets to see it because I've got knights surrounding the tower. But I'll end my and then I'll hand it back to you to really wrap everything up. But what I would say for sales teams that newly get Sales Navigator, first, the gamification is fun. It keeps us motivated, but I really believe that each sales rep should understand their own score and truly understand the activities that you expect from them. And over time, as sales leaders, say, if you get to 16 at find the right people, you're exactly where you need to be
Mhm.
because you're doing the activities we're asking you to do. And so, as a team, kind of setting your own A plus, your curve, I think is really, grade by curve, I think is really an important piece of this. And I would say this is important. Don't just talk about the score with your team, really talk about the impact of the activity that's moving the score.
Yep.
So, Stan, I will throw it back to you to wrap this all in a bow.
Yep. Just to reiterate what Bryn just said about it's the activities. It's the activities. That is what's going to result in sales. And so it's a matter of how you look at it. The As far as the only other things, get my ssiscore.com. If you go to getmyssiscore.com, you can see your SSI score, because you do not have to be a Sales Navigator user to see your SSI score. Okay, now I can't say everyone has one, because when I asked LinkedIn that, they said not necessarily, but they weren't able to tell me exactly why. I mean, if it's someone who's just signing up, then yeah, they don't have any activity yet, so they don't have a score. But the point is, you don't have to be on SalesNav to have an SSI score.
Yeah, I didn't realize that not everyone had one.
Neither did I. And I didn't get someone saying, well, here's why not everyone does. The only instance I could think of is someone was brand new and they haven't done anything. But as soon as they
Interesting.
start some activity, they should have an SSI score.
So even though I'm not supposed to do this, and I'm saying this publicly, but it's the same household, and I log into my husband's LinkedIn account, who he's retired, but I want to see what the free sees because we're
Yeah.
teaching it. So that's, and he does nothing on it. It's literally the account is there and he has a 49.
Wow.
So, but his established professional, this is interesting. And you know what? I think this is going to prove my point. Establishing professional brand is high.
Hmm.
Find the right people is 0. Engage with insights is 0. Build relationships is 24. How much you want to bet? Because people are trying to connect with him
He's
and he's not connecting with anyone.
How about that? Yep. So
So I almost think that proves my point.
great observation. Great observation. Yeah, because I'll bet he's got a bunch of connection requests that are just sitting there waiting for them.
Yeah, but I will go in and I'll look at them and accept the ones that I know who knows. Don't
Yep.
tell anyone. And I do it primarily, and I don't ever log in, for the record, to anyone else ever. It breaks LinkedIn's agreement. It's not appropriate. But as trainers, I need to have access to an account that has no premium and no sales navigator, so I know what other people see and when I'm learning that. And he is retired, so okay. My guilt is now out in the world. Stan, let's take it in before anyone actually hears my rant.
Yes, well, thank you, Bryn. Much appreciated as always. And I hope for everyone it's been helpful in terms of just getting a better handle on the 4 components of your SSI score. You can get a maximum of 25 for each of the 4 components. And so most you could get is 100. All right, but thank you, Bryn. I appreciate the insights, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening, and join us again for more insights on Sales Navigator and social selling strategies that will differentiate you from your competitors and accelerate your sales success. In the meantime, you can go to socialsaleslink.com/library for free content on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, and social selling.